So after you clean your valves, briefly, I'm going to go over checking your valves and seeing if they're straight and whatnot, and if they're still good to use. So really quick, parts of a valve. The long part right here is the valve stem. The part that you're actually lapping and grinding down is the valve seat. That's the part that goes into the cylinder head in the combustion chamber and creates a seal. The surface of the valve is called the head, and the little area between the head and the valve seat, this little area right here, is called the valve face. So obviously your valve needs to be straight, and you need to have a certain thickness for your seat and face and everything for it to still be reusable. So really briefly, I don't have all the correct tools to actually properly measure a valve, but the valve face is this little sliver right between the seat and the valve head, a little sliver right there. You can see better on the diagram right here, that sliver right there. So that cannot be less than 0.7 millimeters, which 0.7 is actually really tiny. It's really, really thin. So if your SR was in good running shape before, then most likely your valves would be okay. See, all my valves, the seat face, or the face thickness was all 1.4, 1.6. This is the exhaust side. This is the intake side. So all these are definitely well over spec. We're looking at 0.0, or we're looking at 0.7. It can't be less than that. So you just take your micrometer, and it's kind of hard to see on the camera, but just measure that little sliver right there. So I'm in millimeters. So let's go ahead. Let's measure that little sliver. So this particular valve was at 1.4. So that's well over our limit. All these valves are actually really good shape. My lowest valve face was 1.1, which is still well over limit. So go ahead and do your little diagram like this and keep them in order like we're doing in every example. The front of the engine is this way. So this marks all the intake. This is all the exhaust valves. And just write out your numbers right here. Keep track. And another thing you should measure is the valve stem runoff, which is kind of think of it as like how straight your valve is, the valve stem. So I don't have the tool to measure that. It's kind of like, see if I have a picture of it. Let's see. Basically, you need a like a dial gauge, and you set the valve on there and turn it, and it measures the thickness. I don't have one of those. So again, like I said, this engine, or this cylinder head, was in good shape, so I'm pretty sure all the valves are okay. But a quick check, if you have a straight edge, you could just set your straight edge down and take your valve and just kind of turn it by hand and look for a gap in between the valve and the straight edge. So this is all pretty straight. This is not a super accurate way to measure, but like I said, I don't have the proper tools. I'm pretty sure these valves are still good, but I did measure the taper on all the valves to make sure they're okay really quick with a caliper. So you need a caliper that's less than 1 inch. I don't have a 1 inch, so I had to use this little spacer. So basically you're just going to measure the top part, record that, and measure the bottom, record that. So in this particular valve, we had measurements. The first measurement I took up here on top of the stem was 0.27, and the bottom measurement I took was 0.26, which if you subtract those numbers, it's only a difference of, that's in inches by the way, 0.002 inches. So the runoff spec is 0.0012 inches, so that's well within spec of being like tapered.